Greetings, and welcome back to Eye of the Beholder, where we look at Dungeons & Dragons miniatures made between the years of 2003 through 2023. Having just recently completed our review of the various Dragon and Dragonkin miniatures, it's time to move on to a new category, so I'm going back alphabetically to constructs. This is a very fluid category, as it not only includes construct creatures such as golems, modrones, and the warforged, but also other constructed items such as weapons, transports, and other objects. Let's get started. I've decided to start with golems. Originally from Jewish folklore, golems are animated anthropomorphic constructs created from inanimate matter and granted life through magical means. D&D golems are no different, just the elements used to create them have vastly increased. Golems have been around for every version of D&D, from the OG first monster manual to today. Blood golems made their first and so far only appearance in 2003's 3rd edition Fiend Folio. Hideously expensive to create in both material and life, it takes the minimum of 16 humanoids' blood to create one, and due to leakage, needs a continual supply of blood to keep functioning, hence the tanks on its back. A completed blood golem looks like a humanoid shape of clotted blood, but they are generally encased in armor, both to slow leakage and with the attached flails on their arms, increase lethalness.
We get our only blood golem, called the Blood Golem of Hextor, in 2007's Unhallowed set. It's exactly what you'd expect: gunmetal gray from its head to its three-toed feet, triple flails on both arms, flailing away at a hapless foe. The positioning of the legs denote forward movement, as if it's wading into a party of PCs, granting nor expecting any mercy. Brutal, but effective. Score: Paint 15, Pose 19, Playability 12, Pizzazz 16, for a score of 62.
Brass golems made their first appearance in 1998's Monstrous Compendium Annual Volume 4. Typically crafted to look like a minotaur and costing upward to 20,000 gold pieces, they are generally equipped with a +3 axe of wounding. Fun fact, just like real minotaurs, they can cast a maze spell once per day.
We get our only brass golem also in 2007 in the Night Below set. Again, an exact match to the book description, with a monochrome brass color with a dark wash for detailing. Pose can be interpreted in a couple of ways, either standing guard with axes presented, or moving forward to attack, axe raised to strike. Being an uncommon helps playability, I can see using 2 of these standing as silent sentinels on a chamber that the party must, of course, enter. Score: Paint 13, Pose 15, Playability 15, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 56.
Chain golems are created by chain devils, who guard the secret of creation zealously. First appearing in 2007's 3rd edition Monster Manual 2, chain golems are huge constructs completely fashioned out of chains, many with sharp edges, barbs, and spikes. They can also lash out with their chains at a target, pulling in to be pummeled and shredded by its fists. Finally, they can surround themselves with a whirling shield of chains, similar to a blade barrier spell.
We get our only chain golem mini in 2008's Against the Giants set. Another all gray with dark wash mini, but with a nice touch of red eyes. Detailing is really nice on this one, as the various individual chain links are all clearly defined. Pose is what you'd expect from a brute, striding forward with one arm raised to strike down on its foes. Would have been nice if WotC would have shown a chain shooting from the second hand, but I guess we can't have everything. Score: Paint 13, Pose 20, Playability 18, Pizzazz 19, for a score of 70.
Clay golems have been around since the OG Monster Manual from 1977. Constructed by clerics, clay golems are both the least expensive to make and the least stable. During combat, the spirit bound to the golem can be released, which causes the clay golem to go berserk until completely destroyed.
We get our first clay golem in 2004's Archfiend set. Like most golems, we don't get a lot of color, just a monochrome gray, but with a nice pop of blue for the loincloth. Pose is interesting, leaning forward with its clearly defined facial features focused forward, slight tilt of the head as if it's undecided what to do. Body reflects this as well, not really in an aggressive posture, but definitely ready if violence is chosen. Score: Paint 14, Pose 22, Playability 13, Pizzazz 14, for a score of 63. Five years later, we get our second clay golem in 2009's Monster Manual Dangerous Delve set. Physically bigger and broader than the previous mini, with the usual monochrome gray with dark wash for details color palette. The detailing revealed, however, is nicely done, given the appearance of wet clay that is slowly oozing from the body, with its feet more pools of clay than discernible feet and toes. The pose is a bit passive, arms down with a slight slump to the body. Score: Paint 13, Pose 11, Playability 18, Pizzazz 17, for a score of 59. WizKids gives us their version of the clay golem in 2017's Monster Manual 2 set. Not impressed. Choosing to go monochrome brown over WotC's gray versions, it just doesn't look as good to me in brown. While the pose is the most aggressive of the three, detailing on the body, limbs, and head is lacking. Perhaps that's on purpose due to the construction material, but again, underwhelming. It isn't uncommon, so playability is about the only thing to recommend it. Score: Paint 9, Pose 13, Playability 16, Pizzazz 10, for a score of 48.
Dragon bone golems are made of, well, the bones of dragons. Often mistaken for Draco liches or other forms of undead, they were first introduced in 2003's Draconomicon book. These constructs are usually bound together with adamantine bindings. The golem retains the dragon aura that inspires terror in other creatures, plus a breath weapon that causes petrification.
We get our only Dragon Bone Golem in 2022's Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. Another nicely detailed but delicate miniature. The royal blue adamantine bindings really stand out against the bones. Black claws and horns complete the look. While this pose has the golem apparently airborne, dragon bones don't fly, so I interpret this pose as the golem is leaping to attack, ready to rip and tear into a trespassing party. Nice touch on the extra long, barbed tail. Playability takes a hit due to its fragility. It's not as bad as the Jabberwock mini reviewed in the last video, but care is required to move it about the battle map. Score: Paint 17, Pose 23, Playability 12, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 72.
Flesh golems are the Frankenstein's monsters of the D&D world. Made from the body parts of humanoids, they are larger than humans, sometimes much larger depending on the components used. They attack with brute force, attempting to pummel its foes to death with its fists. Like clay golems, flesh golems do sometimes go berserk in battle.
We get our first flesh golem in 2004's Aberration set. This golem is definitely giving off Frankenstein vibes. Really nice detailing for an early mini. You get a recognizable face, note the sneer. Nice detailing on the leather tunic, and note the metallic left upper arm and right knee. Looks like the creator ran short on some parts. Body is a greenish gray. Note the stitching detailing. Bronze and silver complete the colors. Score: Paint 22, Pose 23, Playability 20, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 87. 3 years later, we get a much larger flesh golem in 2007's Night Below set. Flesh coloring and dark trousers are about it for the colors, but this mini also has some really nice detailing, easier to see due to its size. Called a Berserk Flesh Golem, he looks it. Note the many scars and cuts on the torso, and the flesh has been ripped away off his left arm, exposing red muscle and, interestingly, a bolt. Metallic clamps are used to hold closed 2 egregious wounds on his back, and the band holding the skull cap in place are also nice touches. Score: Paint 20, Pose 25, Playability 25, Pizzazz 23, for a score of 93. It takes 12 years before WizKids gives us a Flesh Golem, and this weak-ass effort is what we get? From 2019's Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage, this Flesh Golem looks more zombie than golem to me. It's too small, and the pose looks more like a zombie shuffle than a golem advancing to attack. WizKids tried to make it interesting by using 2 different flesh colors to denote the multiple body parts used, but it's not enough to save it. Also, we get an invisible version. Why? Don't know. It's not like invisibility is a known characteristic of flesh golems. Score: Paint 15, Pose 8, Playability 6, Pizzazz 10, for a score of 39. Later in 2019, we get another limited playability flesh golem in the Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus set. Meet Mickey the Flesh Golem, loyal servant to Mad Maggie. Built from various infernals, this is reflected in the coloring. White legs from an ice devil, the head of a Goristo, and who knows what body. It's pretty impressive. I'm not sure about the tanks. I haven't played the adventure. I'm not sure what else to say about this guy. So the score is Paint 18, Pose 16, Playability 22 for Baldur's Gate, 8 everywhere else, Pizzazz 18 for a score of 74/60. We get our last flesh golem in, fittingly enough, 2022's Van Richten's Glide to Ravenloft. Called a headless monster, this golem comes with 2 detachable heads, 1 blonde and 1 brunette. Too cute by half, WizKids. Nice coloring on the body, with blue claw-like feet, tan extremities, and white shirt and brown shorts. Nice muscle definition on the arms and legs, but I don't see any stitching. Maybe it's under that super snug fitting outfit. Score: Paint 21, Pose 17, Playability 17, Pizzazz 18, for a score of 73.
Flesh golems can be cut down, stone golems can be smashed to pebbles, but iron golems are damn near impenetrable. Built of solid iron and oftentimes wielding magic weapons, they have all the advantages of golems but none of the disadvantages. They never go berserk. Often found as loyal servants to final bosses, you have to go through him to get to the big boss. Oh yeah, they can also breathe a cloud of poison gas, so have fun.
We get our first Iron Golem in 2005's Underdark set, and, well, it fits the description. Metallic gray in color, but the beauty of this miniature is in the detailing. Every bolt, joint, and spike is clearly defined, and the pitting on the entire body just underscores how invulnerable this thing is. The Cylon-like eye visor and huge sword are nice touches, especially with the helmet-sized notch in the blade. It's magnificent. Score: Paint 23, Pose 25, Playability 25, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 98. Six years later, we get an even better Iron Golem in the 2010's Lords of Madness set. Called an Iron Golem Juggernaut, if you drop this bad boy on the playmat, the PC should just save the time of the TPK and roll up new characters. Same metallic gray as the previous mini, but with golden highlights on the torso, helmet, and sword. Pose is incredibly dynamic, slightly crouched with the left arm raised for balance, left leg planted for power as the golem is about to deliver an absolutely devastating swing of the sword. If you paid attention to the start, you already know the score. 100. I almost feel bad for WizKids. Their Iron Golem from 2017's Monster Menagerie 2 is perfectly acceptable. Same metallic gray, but with a nice touch of using red at the joints as well as a copious blood splatter on the torso and especially the raised sword. Pose is also properly aggressive. Sword raises as if about to deliver a fatal blow. But it suffers in comparison to the WotC minis. It's physically smaller than the WotC Iron Golem and way smaller than the Juggernaut. Play it if you must, but I'll use the WotC versions. Score: Paint 20, Pose 20, Playability 20, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 80. Our final Iron Golem comes from 2019's Waterdeep Dungeons of the Mad Mage set. It's called Trobrained, which is unusual, as that is the name of the mage that created it. Trobrained was known for creating unique metal creations, which is evident here with the translucent orange fireballs erupting from his hands. Many of his creations were consigned to the Underdark, so if your PCs spent a lot of time there, this guy would make for a wonderful, if overpowering, wandering monster. Score: Paint 22, Pose 20, Playability 19, Pizzazz 24, for a score of 85.
Snow golems are basically Frosty gone bad. First appearing in, of all things, 1994's monstrous compendium Ravenloft, they are exactly what the name implies, creations of ice and snow. In addition to the normal slam attacks, snow golems can conjure large snowballs that can be used for ranged weapons.
We get our only Snow Golem mini in, naturally enough, 2021 Snowbound set. White with a blue wash gives us a pretty accurate appearance of ice and snow. Sculpt is also a nice depiction of the golem, although I'm not sure about the facial expression. He really seems to be enjoying himself. Probably has something to do with the snowball he's about to launch at the PCs. Score: Paint 18, Pose 18, Playability 10, Pizzazz 14, for a score of 60.
Often mistaken for statues until they attack, stone golems are perhaps the most common of the golems. Never crafted with weapons, stone golems just beat their opponent to death. They've been given simple commands, such as guard this treasure, and can remain inert for years until said treasure is threatened. Fun fact, stone golems can also cast a slow spell.
We get our first Stone Golem in 2004's Giants of Legend set, and this guy is definitely in an active state. Standing tall, head held high and arms at his side, he awaits patiently for any party foolish enough to disturb his charge. Inactive but ready, note the hands curled into fists. Paint is what you'd expect, but effective. Gray with generous dark wash for highlighting. Score: Paint 14, Pose 13, Playability 15, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 55. This Stone Golem from 2006's Blood War set is actually a Mog, a construct from the plane of Arsharon. Built for battle, it is not their lot in life to sit idly about. This mini is a great representation of this, charging forward at a full run, hands curled in fists and ready to wreak havoc. Paint is subtle, dark gray body with a slightly lighter gray for the armor. Yellow eyes complete the look. You can certainly use this mini as a standard Stone Golem, especially if you want to depict an activated one. Score: Paint 17, Pose 22, playability 20, pizzazz 21 for a score of 80. We get our first WizKids Stone Golem in 2017's Monster Menagerie 2 set. Somewhere between the passivity of the Watsy Golem and the naked aggression of the Mog, this stone golem appears to be striding resolutely toward its target, hands curling into fists as it goes. The monochrome gray of this mini does nothing to show off the detailing of the sculpt, a common issue with this set. MM2 was not WizKids' best efforts. Score: Paint 7, Pose 16, Playability 13, Pizzazz 10, for a score of 46. Later that year, WizKids makes up for it with this amazing stone juggernaut mini from the Tomb of Annihilation set. Constructed to be unstoppable vehicles of war, this mini looks the part. I don't think we've seen anything close to the intricate detailing on this mini on any other. Even the rollers have intricate designs. The better to leave interesting tracks of blood and gore in its wake. The olive green with black rollers are perfect offsetting colors as well. Small point, how cool would it have been if WizKids had made this actually functional, with rolling wheels rather than a base? You know what's coming. 100.
Wax golems are unique in that they are crafted to resemble a specific individual, often with the goal of eliminating said individual and replacing him or her. Upon completion, they possess a psychic link to the target, tracking it down and absorbing the target's memories and abilities along the way, eventually causing the target to go comatose. Fun fact, once comatose, the target must be hidden away. If it dies, the wax golem starts melting.
Which is obviously what is happening to this one from 2022's Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft set. Called a wax replica, the coloring is quite vibrant on this one, blue duster with white piping over an orangish yellow body. We catch this golem in mid-melt. Even the slightly distorted facial features, a standard problem on minis, works in this case. Not sure how playable it is, but the colors and posing are cool, so the score is Paint 23, Pose 19, Playability 11, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 75.
Web golems are constructs made deep in the Underdark by drow sorcerers. These large constructs are built out of, well, spider webs, but generally are fashioned with spider-like countenances, with 8 eyes, and fully functional, poisonous fangs.
We get our one and only web golem in Where Else, 2008's Demon Web set. A creature-correct monochrome white with just a hint of brown on the fangs and 5, not 8, eyes. Pose is also nothing special, with one claw extended forward with the other arm down at its side. If your PCs do a lot of adventuring in the Underdark, this would be a fun but not essential mini to have, especially as it's a rare. Score: Paint 13, Pose 13, Playability 11, Pizzazz 14, for a score of 51.
And we are done with the golems. Sorry this video ran a little long, didn't feel like breaking it into 2 videos. We will continue to review the various constructs in our next video, looking at one of my favorite types despite never actually running them in a game, the Warforged. As always, thanks for watching Eye of the Beholder, and feel free to leave a comment below.